we're going to look at a Figma, how to make some buttons and how to do some prototype wiring. So with our pages, if you haven't already, it's a good idea to make yourselves a components page. When we make buttons, they turn into components, and then those components are available under assets. Under assets, we have the ability to have multiple libraries. So you're able to add more libraries such as like pre-made user interface kits. But for us, for now, our library consists of assets that we've created in our own local file. So if I come in and look at my assets here, I have already made a logo as well as a button. And the reason that we want to make assets or components is so that they are reusable. And we have to make buttons into components or else they won't function. They won't show their feedback. So if I come under assets, if I click and drag out my button here, put it there, I'm able to see it. And when I press play, when I roll over it, I'm able to see my hover state, which is what we want. So I'm going to show you how to do that. One thing to note is the reason that we have a special page that is a components page is that the components page is where we're actually building these things. So here's my component. This is the button that I just showed you. The location where we build our buttons, they're sort of behind the scenes. They're kind of like the raw ingredients for the button to work. And then to see the button in sort of its final cooked, if you will, state, you have to pull that button in from assets. So that's why we have a components page, because that's where we're sort of showing the behind the scenes-y build of these things. And it's not until we pull the file or grab that button from assets do we actually see it function the way we expect it to. So I'm going to build a button very similar to the one that I just showed you. So far I've just made a rectangle and some text. Let's put that back, one on top of the other. I'm going to come in and select it. And what I need to do first is make it into a component. So I can actually just right click and choose create component. I can also grab it from over here on the right hand side. And I want to make sure that I'm naming my components so I don't get confused. So this is my second button. With it selected, I'm able to add a property. So each button we make with a hover state is going to have two properties. There's the default, so what it looks like when I just first initially look at it on the screen. And then the second property or variant is going to be the hover state. So I'm just going to come over to right here and click on add property, and it needs to know what kind of property, and it is a variant. So all buttons, all the states are variants of the original button. So I'm going to choose variant. And now that it's surrounded by a purple box, I know that it is now a component that has one variant default. And what I want to do is make hover now as well. So I'm going to click the little plus sign here to make my second variant, and I'm going to call it hover. So I just filled it in as hover here. Now I can come in and change it around. So I'm going to actually make it so that it is kind of the opposite of the original one that I made. So I'm just going to swap all the colors, swap the fill. There we go, swap all the colors. Make the stroke into the lighter color, like so. And now the final step is to actually connect these two together through prototype. So I'm going to click on my first button here because it's the default button, and I'm going to go to prototype. And when I hover over, we're able to see, I can just zoom in a bit here. Oh, there we go. When I hover over my button here, I've clicked into it, so it's got some purple border around it. I get the little circle with a plus sign, just so. I can click and drag, which brings out the wire, so it's called a wire. And I want it to connect to the hover state. Once I let go of the mouse, I get the trigger. So I don't want it to be on click. I have a bunch of options here. I want it to be while hovering. So while hovering. And then it defaults to change to hover. So basically default state is going to change to the hover state. And you can always change the animation. I'm going to leave it as instant, but there are some other options available as well. All right, so as I mentioned, the reason that we have our components on a separate page, it shows the behind the scenes stuff. If I preview this, the button doesn't actually work because this is just showing what it looks like on the components page. What I actually need to do is come to, well, I could pull it from assets here and, check it out, but I've made a test page, so I may as well go to the test page. I'm going to come to assets. Here's my second button, button number 2. I'm going to drag it out. I'm going to press play. And when I press play, as it uploads, if I hover, there my button works. So basically there's sort of 3 things to do. Make your button into a component. From there, add that property as and choose variant. Then once you've made the variant, you can make the second variant, and then you need to go to prototype to wire them together. So I'm going to do a second button, just so that, I have plans for 2 more buttons. So I'm going to go bring over the second button here, and I'm going to make this one have an underline. So I am, going to be under design, and actually this button, it's going to work like a link. I'll close up this button. I'm going to turn it into a component. And the component name, I'm going to call it button with underline. Sure. And I'm going to add a property, which means I need it to be a variant. And there we go. Great. Property 1, variant. I'm going to press this little plus sign, the purple plus sign here, get my second button. I'm going to come in and change the color to purple, and then I'm also going to add an underline to it. There. Enter to let go. Stroke, I'm going to increase to 4, I guess. Make that the purple, and I want the endpoints to be round so that they look kind of friendly and nice. One thing I want to make sure, did I forget to name this guy? Hover, I did. I'm going to call it hover. There we go. One thing I can note when I look at my layers here, so I have my button, I have my hover, and I can see my vector 1, which is my line, is within the hover. So that's how I know it's going to appear when I wire it up to make it respond as feedback. I know the line will appear, or at least I hope it will. All right, so to get this wired up, I clicked the wrong thing, did not want to go there. I want to go here, sorry. I clicked the wrong thing, I meant to click prototype. So clicking on prototype, I'm going to click on button here, get that little circle with the plus sign, the blue circle with the plus sign. The wire comes out when I click and drag, and then I'm going to drag it on down to my hover state, to my hover variant. And once again, my trigger needs to be while hovering. It's going to change to that hover state instantaneously. So to test that, I'm going to come over to test. I'm going to come over to assets. It automatically appears in assets. As soon as a component is created, it automatically appears in assets. I'm going to drag it out from there. Now I'm going to press play. And let it refresh. And there it is. Oh, oops, I have to change it a little bit, but pretty good.